Hey there, listeners. Well, this week I posted a quote by myself, and it says, most people tend to stay in their comfort zone. I like to stretch and challenge them to be the best they can be. As a speaker and a facilitator and an executive coach, I understand that while the comfort zones, they provide us security, they also limit our personal growth, innovation, and self-discovery. So in today's episode, we're going to dive deeper into this topic. So let's discuss.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos.
Welcome to the Ask Dennis episode. This is a freestyle episode where I am asked a question by our listeners, or I share my thoughts, experiences, and insights from working with many leaders around the globe. Well, listeners, it's great to be here with you in this Ask Dennis episode. And as I said in my intro, I shared a quote on social media this week, and it said this, that most people tend to stay in their comfort zone. I like to stretch and challenge them to be the best that they can be. Now, comfort zones are really what we call those safe havens, where many of us choose to sort of hang out. We like hanging out there in that safe haven. Why? Because they're familiar, they're predictable, but they also shield us from the unknown. However, while these zones tend to give us that security, they also can become a barrier to things like growth, innovation, and self-discovery, and I'll even add another one here, creativity. But as a speaker, facilitator, and executive coach, I believe it's important to challenge people to step out of their comfort zones or areas, whatever you want to call it, and push themselves to their fullest potential. In fact, I think it's my obligation. It's my responsibility as a leader to do this. You as a leader, this is your obligation, your responsibility to do it with yourself, but also with your teams and your organizations. But a question I've got here is, why do people stay in their comfort zones? As I said, it tends to be more of a natural or human thing that we do. So human, natural thing to stay in our comfort zones. It's where we feel secure. In fact, we feel like we're in control, and it shields us from failure or even rejection. Now, look, our brains are wired to avoid risk and discomfort. So leading us to really create routines or habits or things that we do to minimize uncertainty. Now, in this zone, stress can be quite low, and we can operate on what I call autopilot. That's where we tend to save energy and avoiding that emotional toll of the unknown, because it can be quite scary for people. However, that comfort zone has really a double-sided or double-edged sword. While it's going to offer you that short-term relief, but it's also going to limit our experiences, our learning, and our personal growth. So over time, it can stifle creativity. It might even reduce resilience, and it can cause us to miss out on opportunities that lie just in front of us and in our immediate grasp, or just it's so close. You're so close to getting to another level of success. Now, I talk about at times that leaders aren't changing, not just leaders, actually, organizations as well, are not changing quick enough, but they run that risk of becoming irrelevant and being left behind. There is actually power in stepping out of your comfort zone, because when we do step out of our comfort zone, that's when we tap into the world of possibilities. It's really about an act of courage. Although it can be uncomfortable, there's amazing benefits that come from it. Number one is that there's personal growth. So if we can confront challenges, we learn more about ourselves, about our strengths, and about our weaknesses. Each new experience outside of our comfort zone becomes really that building block of self-improvement and growth. The second area here would be there's enhanced creativity. Because when you're facing new situations, it forces us to think differently. It actually allows us to be a little bit more innovative, and we get into that creative problem solving kind of scenario. That's why when we are in downturns of business or there is a pandemic, people are forced to look at things differently. We need to adapt. We need to become more creative. The third one would be about increased resilience because you see, as we start to expose ourselves to the discomfort, we start to build resilience over time. As I said before, we learn to adapt, we cope, and we can thrive even in the face of adversity. Number four would be we can build greater confidence here. Every time that you do overcome a challenge, our confidence grows and we start to believe more in our capabilities and the more willing we are to take on new risks. Now, the question I have sometimes is, does the comfort zone ever stay the same? Because you see, once you step out of your comfort zone and you can experience growth, returning to the previous state is unlikely. Instead, your comfort zone is going to expand. And what once may have seemed daunting or challenging starts to become more familiar for you. And your new baseline of comfort includes higher levels of challenges and achievements. So the expansion is really a powerful cycle that you can go through. And each step sets the stage for even greater growth in the future. In my previous year, Asked in this episode, I talked about what people are doing now in this last third of the year is not only bringing the year to an end close and strong, but they're setting up the stage for next year. So there's a prime example of what I just talked about. Now, why do I, as a speaker facilitator or an executive coach, push the stretch? Well, it's my mission to help people realize their potential by pushing beyond, now get this, their perceived limits. When I talk about perceived limits, that's about their own thinking. And I do this because I know that true growth happens when we're stretched. And as I said earlier on, it's my responsibility to help individuals see what they are truly capable of and to guide them through the process of transformation. There's a Greek word out there that's called metavasi. That's the Greek word for transformation. And really quite interesting. It's about really how we can help you navigate that journey. You see, the approach here really teaches people that their potential is far greater than they've ever imagined. And I'm going to give you a little bit of an example later on about how people's thinking may have been limited. Because you see, if you can experience what you can achieve outside of your comfort zone, then what you've really learned here is about the limitations are often self-imposed. It's what we think, and now sometimes our thinking limits our belief or limits our achievements. So once you start thinking about this and helping people stretch and push them towards that in a good way, right? So in other words, it's not pushing them and shoving them into it, but I'm getting them to understand and helping them through it. It starts to really open up a world of possibilities, showing them that they can achieve more than they thought possible. Here's another example. What would happen if you did 2% or 10% or even 10 times more every day or every week, every month? The impact of that, little bit by little bit, is exciting. See, the small incremental changes can compound over time, leading to significant transformations. Imagine doing 2% more each day. It might seem minor to you, but over a year, it leads to a dramatic increase in your capabilities and your achievements. What happens if you could push 10% more than that actually can set you apart from your competition? In fact, that could be the difference maker, where 10x or 10 times more can completely redefine your personal and professional landscape. I remember a few years ago, I was working with a team and we talked about blue sky thinking about where they want to go and what they could achieve. And when they did the exercise, we had 3 teams. They were laughing about what they were writing down because that, for some of them, it just felt unreal or was so far away. 18 months later, got back with the same team, brought out the 3 flip charts because we wanted them to do the actual exercise again. And as they started to go through the 3 flip charts from the previous 18 months prior, and they started ticking things off, they ticked everything off except for one item. What became very evident to them and what opened their eyes was the fact that even at that time they were doing it 18 months prior. They thought they were being silly and it was just out there. But what they realized was they were limited in their thinking because they had achieved all of it already. Here's another example. I've been working with a team recently, and I'm just going to use numbers just for the numbers' sake, but because these aren't the numbers. Let's say their revenue was $1 million for the year. My question to them was, what happens if you double it? What happens if you triple it? What happens if you 10x it? In other words, 10 times that. You go from 1 million to 10 million. Now, all of a sudden, they're starting to reason with themselves, self-doubt, and so forth. But as I started to talk them through it, they started to think about and see the possibilities. It's very exciting, listeners, if we can start thinking about this. So how do you stretch and challenge yourself? Because you see, if you're ready to step out of your comfort zone and experience the growth that comes with it, there's a few steps that you might want to think about. Number one is always set clear goals. Identify what you want to achieve, break them down into manageable steps. Number two, embrace the discomfort. It's another way of saying it is get comfortable being uncomfortable. Recognize that discomfort is a sign of growth and lean into it rather than trying to avoid it. Number three is take small steps. And if you can start with small challenges and gradually increase the difficulty, that's going to help you. It will help you build confidence and momentum. Number four is always seek feedback. Surround yourself with people who can provide constructive feedback and support you as you grow. Number five would be reflect and adjust. So regularly reflect on your progress, make adjustments as needed, and this will help you stay on track and continue to grow. For those of you who I already work with, you know what I'm talking about when you're doing the reflection activity and what you can do there. So in conclusion here, listeners, staying in your comfort zone might feel safe, but it also limits your potential. By challenging yourself to step out and push your boundaries, you're going to unlock potential. You're going to unlock opportunities for growth, creativity, and success. As someone who's experienced this transformation firsthand, I'm passionate about helping others embark on this journey. So go on, take the first step out of your comfort zone today. You will be amazed in what you can achieve. If there's anything I can do to help you in getting out of your comfort zone and going on that journey to help you reach that potential, feel free to reach out to me. Send me an email, dennis@leadingchangepartners.com, or send me a private message on social media, in other words, Facebook Messenger or on LinkedIn, and then let's get together and connect. Alrighty, your call to action today is to download the 10 ways to lead in today's world. There is a guide, that's a great guide, getting great feedback from people. There is a link on the show notes if you want to click on that, and we'll send you that guide. Hey listeners, that's it for this episode. It's always a pleasure being with you. Thanks for joining me on the Leadership is Changing podcast. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.